from the headquarters of Celso English in Quito, Ecuador. This is From the South, and I am Sweeney Gray. Zimbabwe police confirmed that the deaths from yesterday's military crackdown on protesters has since risen to 6. 3 people died today at hospital. 26 protesters have been arrested. The police have sealed off the headquarters for the Movement for Democratic Change Party, and 27 employees carrying out voter counts were locked inside the building. The Secretary General of the MDC said that he suspected the police wanted to incriminate some officials by planting evidence. The police also wanted to meet with opposition leaders in Chimisa, but they've since dropped that request after meeting with his lawyer. Meanwhile, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission says there is significant progress in the presidential vote results collation, and they continue to ask for patience.
We do acknowledge, like the Deputy Chair said, that the longer it takes, the more the anxiety that is there amongst our citizens. But the reality of the situation is that we need to do the whole process within the confines of the law. Let me not give a specific time whether I will do it today or tomorrow. But there is significant progress that is happening now in terms of the collection.
The Commonwealth Observer Mission has urged the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to release the election results as soon as possible. The group said delays create opportunities for citizens to speculate about the potential to manipulate the votes. They said voting had been largely peaceful and well organized before violence broke out on Wednesday. The group condemned violence and the use of live ammunition on civilians.
We're busy with report writing.
In Guatemala, communities are protesting the murders of 8 social leaders and human rights defenders. Journalists, scholars, and community leaders from the indigenous Quechua demanded that the authorities publish information from the investigations. They believe the deaths were linked to the victims' activism against multinational corporations. The 6th negotiation cycle between the Colombian government and the ELN guerrilla group ended without a signed bilateral ceasefire. Now the future of the negotiation is in the hands of President-elect Iván Duque.
Social leaders are concerned about the lack of agreement after 17 months of public negotiations.
We had the hope of having much more concrete results in the matter of agreements, especially for a ceasefire, in the most contested regions of the country. It's a humanitarian issue that is vital for us.
According to analyst Víctor de Curria, over the past few months, Santos' government was too passive, which is why they failed to sign agreements that guarantee the continuation of talks.
Ceasefires have been proposed in which the ELN has a number of obligations, but the public force does not have the same. And even though they are different actors, a balance in responsibilities is not achieved through a ceasefire.
According to President Juan Manuel Santos, the ceasefire wasn't signed because of a recommendation from the United Nations.
We have to go to the Security Council, and the Security Council will ask what does the new government think about this, because we are only 4 days away from the new government. It will be counterproductive to sign something that the new government does not agree with.
According to Curria, President Duque won't throw away all the advances made over the years with the ELN. It is one thing what is being said in a campaign, and another as a president.
I don't think the will of President Duque is to break the dialogue, but to reformulate it. How much to do so is what he's analyzing currently.
Social organizations are calling on society in general not to abandon the hope for peace, for the well-being of future generations.
Of course, we make a call to respect the implementation of the agreements. That means that Colombia should have a state peace policy.
On August 7, when President-elect Iván Duque is sworn in, Colombians will know which course their country will take in the matter of peace.
In Chile, hundreds of workers have protested outside the Ministry of Labor to reject a new labor reform. Our correspondent in Santiago, Tiare Valenzuela, has more.
Labor unions, along with public workers, have demonstrated outside the Ministry of Labor after a controversial reform that allows corporative groups to use third parties in workers' rights negotiations. These negotiations are very important for private and public employees in order to obtain more benefits, such as higher salaries. This reform comes after a youth labor project approved by the lower house. The project will affect young people from ages of 18 to 28 entering the workforce in search of full-time employment. Analysts said that this new law undermines students, given that this new category of work prevents young workers from assessing the full benefits of formal employment, including contributions to retirement. They will have to work up to 3 shifts per day. They will lose full vacation days, and pregnant women will lose their maternity leave benefits.
More news in a minute, but first, here's this from our colleagues in multimedia. Welcome back. In Brazil, Senator Galice Hoffmann visited hunger strikers at the Control Center in Brasilia on Wednesday. Senator Hoffmann said the participants of the Solidarity strike are in good spirits. The hunger strike seeks to bring attention to the rise of extreme poverty and hunger as a consequence of existing social policies. Participants also want to draw attention to what they believe is the unjust detention of former President Lula.
This act has a lot of significance, not only for President Lula and for his freedom, and in protest of what he faces, but for all Brazilians. At this time, it is extremely difficult for the poor. The poor are suffering and unhappy. We are seeing hunger once again in Brazil. So this hunger strike serves to bring attention to this situation. Brazil, which had conquered in the battle against hunger and extreme poverty, is once again encountering this problem. So these people who are here undertaking this hunger strike are those who want, above all, to bring attention to this situation.
Brazil's former foreign minister, Celso Amorim, who served under Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, met with Pope Francis to discuss Lula's political and judicial situation. Amorim gave the Pope a book that Lula himself wrote called The Truth Shall Prevail, in which he talks about the political persecution and the role of media in his detentions. Amorim spoke about the meeting as he left the Vatican.
It was a historic day for me. It was with honor and excitement to be received by Pope Francis. I was accompanied by two very important people, politicians and ministers, one from Argentina and one from Chile. And the Pope received us for more than an hour. The main topic was the situation of President Lula, which he has followed with interest and which he says worries him. As we know, he mentioned in that sermon where he expressed his concern about the political coups in Latin America, and it's a constant concern of his.
Prosecutors in Chile have asked the government to submit a formal request to the Vatican for information on 9 clergymen and lay workers who are accused of sexual abuse. The prosecutor's office said it was investigating 38 accusations of sexual abuse against 73 bishops, clerics and lay workers in the cities of Santiago, Valparaiso, and in the southern region of Araucania. The cases involve 104 victims, most of whom were underage at the time of the alleged abuses. The prosecutor said it could submit additional requests in the future. And Pope Francis has announced that the death penalty can never be sanctioned because it attacks the dignity of all human beings, changing fundamental teachings of the Catholic Church. Previously, the Church said it didn't rule out capital punishment if it was the only way to defend human life against an unjust aggressor. However, Pope Francis has now ruled that the death penalty is inadmissible in all cases. Francis has long been a critic of capital punishment. And thousands of Catholic believers in Nicaragua have turned the celebration of St. Dominic on August 1st into a march for peace. St. Dominic was a Spaniard who founded the Dominican order and is the patron saint of Managua. Nicaraguans are trying to get their country back to normal after 4 months of political turmoil and ongoing protests that have left at least 265 people dead, according to the figures of the Commission for Truth, Peace and Justice. Bolivians gathered around the country to celebrate the beginning of August, the month of Pachamama or Mother Earth, to thank nature for its blessings. According to the Amira tradition, in August, the land opens up to receive offerings for good harvest. Also, it is the driest month of the year, which leaves the earth tired and seeking to recover its strength. Bolivians place an offering on a table with fruits, sweets, incense, grains, and cereals, and then it's all burned. If the offerings are consumed completely by the fire, it means Mother Earth enjoyed the offering. Alcohol is then poured on the table while people ask for blessings throughout the year. Llamas were also sacrificed as a gift to Pachamama. According to this ancestral Andean tradition, the community has to offer Mother Earth blood, and in return, she will grant the people prosperity and health. The Yatri, or community healer, offered the blood and heart of the llama. In Antigua and Barbuda, the government is pushing forward with a new tax bill that would see a crackdown on tax evaders. The bill has now gone through both the lower house and the Senate. Prime Minister Gaston Brown promised that the new law will drastically improve tax collection in Antigua and Barbuda, claiming that the deficit in tax collection has led to millions of dollars in lost income. The Prime Minister claimed the country is undertaxed by $328 million a year. Opposition senators asked that the public be informed properly before being penalized.
Pay the taxes, but I'm saying to the ALP administration, educate, let's have a public education. Let's encourage the people.
Mr. President, it's a number of acts that will be affected with the passing of this bill. And I don't think it's a situation where we just gloss over it and say, well, we're passing a bill for passing a bill's sake. We need to educate the people. And one of the things in this bill is the whole issue of the Inland Revenue Department and their public relations. And I'm going to keep calling for that.
Grenadians are spending the morning cleaning homes and removing debris after heavy rains on Tuesday caused major flooding on the island. Grenada experienced heavier than usual rainfall brought on by the intertropical convergence zone, which dumped several centimeters of rain in just a few hours. Roadways became impassable and several residents were stranded in their homes. Luckily, there were no reports of injuries, but several homes were flooded out, causing thousands of dollars in damage.
And it's sad because they lost a lot.
I is a bus driver, and I know, you see, I can't walk today. I have to pack up my bus whole day today. Since morning, I pack up now. And I have to come now and swim to get these people out of the place.
The Minister with responsibility for disaster management and information, Dr. Winston Garraway, told state media even though the volume of rain received was higher than usual, it's important that citizens keep the waterways clear as well.
Persons who are doing construction to ensure that they dispose of the construction debris in a most effective and efficient manner, as well as farmers doing farming, the importance of ensuring that if you're going to cut trees, how you dispose of the debris. And with all of these, what we have seen in terms of some of the areas of the flooding is because some drains were blocked. From an NADMA standpoint, we've been coordinating and assisting as much as we can as it relates to persons who needed to get out of the disastrous situation.
Now, sex tapes are not new, but in the Caribbean, the consequences for women when a tape enters the public sphere can be quite costly. Shame is magnified when living in a small country, and escaping public condemnation can become very difficult. We spoke to one woman who's going through a very public scandal right now to find out how she's coping.
Christy Adia woke up to a nightmare. Her social media accounts had become the target of people condemning a video she made privately with a partner that was released in the public without her consent.
How I'm feeling now is very betrayed and ashamed, embarrassed. It's just so much emotions that it's very hard to get it out.
Chrissy's partner, seen in the video, is the reggae artist Jabami, real name Marvin Walters. Christy issued a statement on social media saying Jabami used a moment of intimacy to shame and cyberbully her. Jabami later shared that statement saying that it would be crazy for him to share a video that could be seen by his wife and teenage daughters.
Who want to smoke, baby? Who?
Who want to smoke?
Joke. Joke.
When sex tapes are released, most often, it is the woman who faces the brunt of the public condemnation. To explain why, we turn to Dr. Suan Barrett, a gender and communications lecturer at the University of the West Indies.
The idea is that sex is taboo as the ultimate presumption, one, and two, that women should indeed be passive. If you are then seen in a sex tape, the notion of who is breaching the taboo will always rest in the woman.
Dr. Barrett describes the online bias against women as an example of femininity as failed because the rules of being a good and decent woman are very strict. She likens those online behaviors to being a form of gender-based violence, as she writes about in an April paper looking at two similar cases in Trinidad.
Because we do embrace a notion of, I will be an acceptable human based on ideology of gender if I'm decent. If as a young woman, my legs are closed, I'm not a thought or a whore, whatever words are there. So even women will reinforce this thing, well, if you didn't want people to see your tape or your picture or whatever, even though it was the privacy of your own home or your own space, then don't do it. But that is part of a discourse of personal responsibility that's extremely sexist and aggressive against femininity, because femininity then is constructed as failure.
As for the women in the situation, they often have to find healing in an often unforgiving space. But Christy says she has support and she's determined to rise above this.
I just want to take control back of my life because I was independent and well, had stuff going on for me before we got in this situation, and I want that same thing back after the situation. Like, I need to get back my independence and take control of my life moving forward with this.
Time now for a short break, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Hundreds of people are organizing in Andalusia, Spain, to assist migrants stranded in makeshift camps where basic services have collapsed, following the increase of arrivals during the past few days.
Over 600 migrants are being kept in this public sports complex. This space was set up by local authorities to aid migrants arriving by boat to the south of Spain.
We have no doctors. We can't sleep. There are no beds. We are sleeping on cardboard boxes. We are tired and we need medical assistance.
While migrants lament the precarious conditions they find themselves in, neighbors of the area have organized to help improve their situation and fill the gap in humanitarian aid by the European Union.
Seeing this makes me happy. We are showing our country is full of good people, and it makes my heart grow. People are really making an effort to help.
The arrival of thousands of migrants to Spain has also given rise to the xenophobic and racist rhetoric of the far right, which is being fought head-on with displays of solidarity.
I was expecting this kind of response, but it's still heartening, especially when facing so many racist comments on social media. We are showing they are few and we are fighting their hate.
Spain has asked for humanitarian aid from the European Commission, which aims to provide funds to Morocco and Tunisia to stop the ongoing flow of migrants. The collapse of public services in Spain is leaving hundreds of African migrants stranded on the streets. This has motivated a wave of solidarity to help them as they wait for their freedom.
A mass rally took place in the city of Saada in Yemen to condemn the crimes committed by the Saudi-led coalition. Protesters marched under the slogan, "With our blood, we preserve our honor," to denounce crimes like the abduction of women and children in occupied territories. They also condemned both the United Nations for their silence on the brutality of the war and the United States for its complicity in the crimes. Thousands of people greeted opposition leader Jean-Pierre Bemba on Wednesday as he returned to the Democratic Republic of Congo to submit his candidacy for December's presidential election. Bemba, a former vice president whose war crime convictions at the International Criminal Court in The Hague were quashed on appeal in May, is expected to pose a challenge to President Joseph Kabila. And for more on Bemba's return and Kabila's refusal to leave power, we spoke with Maurice Carney, the executive director of Friends of the Congo.
Well, it means at least two things. One, there's genuine support for Bemba himself. Two, that he embodies the aspirations of the Congolese people to get rid of Joseph Kabila. During the rallies, the people were chanting, Kabila, Bemba is here, it's time for you to go. So he embodies the sentiment of the Congolese people, and they see in him an opportunity, a strong force to remove Kabila from power. Candidates for the December 23rd election or political parties have to submit the names of the candidates. With Kabila's party, they've been floating the idea that they would submit his name to run for presidency. However, the Constitution bars him from running. He has served his two 5-year terms, which ended in December 2016, and he's holding on to power beyond the constitutional mandate. So we will know for sure by August 8th what Kabila's move is going to be. But rest assured, irrespective of whether he runs for office or not, he wants to hold on to power, and he wants to do so by any means necessary.
Ali Mishima, the son of the imprisoned political activist Hassan Mishima, is carrying out a hunger strike and a sit-in in front of the Bahraini embassy in London. Hassan Mishima, the leader of the Haq Movement for Liberty and Democracy, was arrested for his opposition to the government. His family say his health is deteriorating due to being denied medication and proper treatment. He's 70 years old. The Bahraini government has imprisoned a number of activists and protesters in response to ongoing demonstrations since 2011. Now let's take a look at some other news making headlines from around the world.
Thousands of people gathered in Warsaw, Poland on Wednesday to commemorate the 74th anniversary of a 63-day insurgency against Nazi Germany in 1944. The bloody rebellion resulted in the deaths of around 18,000 fighters and over 180,000 civilians. The insurgency ended in their defeat. People marched to the royal castle to mark the occasion. In India, a 3-year-old girl has been rescued from a 110-feet bore well after an over 30-hour-long ordeal in the Bihari Munger district. The girl had fallen into the well the day before while playing. Her hip, leg and back were lodged, so it took a long time to rescue her. She was later taken to the hospital by a plane.
First, around 43.5 feet was done, then again 11 feet were dug. Actually, the hip and the leg of the child were badly stuck because of a 30 minutes delay. The child was removed early, but due to her back being stuck, it took time to rescue her. The child is fine now. There are biscuits and chocolates for her to eat.
Staff at the Eiffel Tower walked off the job, forcing it to close during the peak tourist season. It's reported that workers were unhappy with growing queues at the landmark attraction. According to workers, a new access system was responsible for monstrous queues of visitors. Talks between the CGT trade union and the tower's management got to a head on Wednesday afternoon, causing the site to close.
And we've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesyourtv.net/English. And join us on social media. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm Soini Gray. Thank you for watching.